technologies which can match with the best in the world, or they are even better than the world. We have means there's virtually no field where we can say that we don't have the potential, we don't have the knowledge, we don't have the wisdom, we don't have the capability, we don't have the manpower. We have state of the art facilities for research, we have state of the art laboratories, we have the best scientists in our country, and they are very open to everything. They have a very objective and very sincere way of working. And in almost every field, means if I start talking about fields, it's going to be a long story. Whether it is climate predictions, whether it is cyclone predictions, whether it is knowledge related to the vast energy resources in the sea, whether it is biotechnology or converting waste into wealth, or even when you talk of what we are talking of the cellular level. You see, the genomics has now given birth to a large number of life scientists who are now basically not helping people on the basis of the symptoms, but they are now working at cellular and genetic level. And so happy to learn that the total human genome sequencing that required something like $100 million 10 years back. Now we are capable of doing that in $1,000 within a span of 10 years. So advancement in research in the various fields of science has already taken place, and this is probably the right time. When I say that, I always say that science, with its research papers, with its publications, with its patents, and technology being invented in the laboratories, it has actually got no meaning unless we are able to put it to use for the benefit of mankind. And I see this particular activity which has started here under the able leadership of Acharya Mahendra Muniji. It has a real vast and great potential to fulfill for the whole world the problems that we are confronted with, for which Acharya Tulsi ji also talked about the Anuvrat movement. He traveled all across the world propagating non-violence and trying to give the world better human beings. So this is the right moment. And I can tell you that I have visited these laboratories of science in the last 1 year. Almost 80% of them I have visited. I have been to places where a reference was made to Acharya Jagdish Chandra Bose by Justice Dalbir Bhandari ji. I have visited those places where Sir C.V. Raman worked, Sir Acharya Jagdish Chandra Bose worked. And I can tell you with certainty that our Indian scientists, they discovered most of the things much before than the rest of the world did. The crescograph, which was discovered by Acharya Jagdish Chandra Bose, but the history may not show that being discovered by him for the first time, but they had a different vision. They also had the vision like that of our Swamiji. They said that science is for everyone. Science is for the whole world. Science is not for individuals or for specific countries, and they were against patenting of the science discoveries because they thought that everything has to be put to use for the whole world. I still recall with a lot of pride a statement by the grandson of Marconi, written with his own hand, which I could see with my own eyes in a Bose Vigyan Mandir in Calcutta, where he acknowledges the role of Acharya Jagdish Chandra Bose in discovering the wireless much before his grandfather Marconi did it. This is from the grandson of Mr. Marconi. So we have that DNA, we have that gene, and I have seen places where people like Sir C.V. Raman worked. They never had access to the highly sophisticated tools that we have right now. So, friends, this is and when I talk of my own medicine, I have gone into the details of our indigenous systems like Ayurveda to great extent. And I want to place on record here, Swamiji, that in 2000, I was part of a function in Japan, Kobe, organized by the most prestigious center of WHO, which does research on health policies and forwards those health policies to WHO, which in turn forwards those policies to the member state countries. And the subject of that discussion of between 125 people called from all over the world, fortunately I was also one of them, was health and welfare systems development for the 21st century. Because WHO felt that the year 2000 has come and health for all by the year 2000 has not been achieved. And after the discussion, in that forum, unanimously they internationally resolved and said that India's medicine, India's indigenous medicine systems, India's positive health mechanisms, India's preventive strategies, and India's Patanjali yoga and meditation, they are going to be the biggest sources of healer energy for mankind in the 21st century. This was at a forum in Kobe, Japan. And our ancient texts about Ayurveda, they are so thoroughly comprehensive with knowledge about keeping people alive for 100 years without the use of medicines, only with the use of good quality value systems, lifestyles. And all that knowledge has been transferred, translated into Arabic languages, into Persian languages in the 9th century, into the European languages in the 17th century. And what we see as modern medicine today, which has probably, we feel that it has come to us from the West, it is not. It is something which got out of India. And I can tell you that I was told that the Minister of Ayush is coming here. The government of India, under the leadership of Modi ji, we got the National Ayush Mission established for the first time with a 5,000 crores budget. And in my own Science and Technology Ministry, we have the TKDL, the Traditional Knowledge Mission, where all this traditional knowledge is stored in the big library. We are trying to collect everything. We are trying to devise mechanisms to use it for mankind. And in the Science and Technology Ministry itself, now after Narendra Modi ji got yoga to the center stage of the whole world, we have now a Satyam program, Science and Technology for Research in Yoga and Meditation, where I think it's a very, very thoroughly institutionalized mechanism where we use all modern tools and establish it before the world how yoga and how meditation can help change parameters, how they can help improve positive health, and how they can help improve health not at a physical level but physical, mental, social, and the spiritual level. And all this spiritual dimension to health, it has been given to the World Health Organization, to this world, by our saints and sages like Swamiji. So, friends, I can go on and on, but I have only come here to express my pleasure, and I saw the details of all those activities that are going to happen in the next 3 days. All the topics are extremely interesting. They are going to make history. They have the potential to make history, and they are going to be a great blessing in disguise for the whole world. And they have the potential to change the face of the whole world, as science has. And I think this is the only dimension of the use of science which was probably left unexplored. And I'm so happy and I felicitate you for starting this dimension. And I am sure that one day somebody from this audience has the potential to be a Nobel laureate from India after C.V. Raman in this field, because this is the field where we can have a Nobel laureate only from India. We can't have a Nobel laureate from anywhere else. Although we feel so happy that there are so many great scientists from US, Japan, other places who have come here. Dalai Lama ji has also conveyed his blessings. Everyone is on board, and I think we are right in a position to take off at this moment. I express all my heartfelt gratitude, thanks to you, and convey to you on behalf of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji his best wishes, and assure you of every possible support from the Ministry of Science and Technology for this mission. I don't call it a conference, I don't call it a routine symposium. I call it a mission for India's development. I call it a mission for development of the whole world. I call it a mission. The real application of science is now to begin, and this is the right forum and the right time when it is happening. Thank you so much. All my felicitations and good wishes to all of you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Chancellor of the university is Shri Basandraj Bhandari, who was a former Principal Advisor, International Trade Center, Geneva. And he's an international expert on foreign trade for over 46 years, standing widely traveled, author, writer, consultant in various fields. It is indeed our fortune to have him presiding over this inaugural function. May we request Shri Basandraj Bhandari, the Chancellor of JVBI, to deliver the presidential address.
Samadi, Sadhus, Minister Harshvardhan ji, Justice Dalveer Bhandari ji, other distinguished personalities on the dais, learned scientists, ladies and gentlemen. Before I start my address, I would like to share my visit to invite Minister Harshvardhan ji. I asked what time I should come. The time was given 7:30 in the morning in the wintry hours of Delhi. So this is the time he starts working. When I said this is the meeting, he said, I'm very much interested, but the timetable of the minister is not valid even 24 hours. So I'll try and come, and I'm so glad, sir, that you are able to join us today. I would also like to express my gratitude and reverence to Acharya Mahashaman ji for his blessings and benedictions. The initiative and insights provided by Muni Mahendra Kumar ji and his team was indeed great in making this conference a success. For next 3 days, eminent scientists and renowned scholars, to which category I don't belong, will churn out and decipher the complementarity and connectivity between science and Jain philosophy. According to Carl Sagan, the famous astronomer of yesteryears, science is not only compatible with spirituality, it is a profound source of spirituality. This view was further elaborated by famous German physicist Max Planck, who surmised that both religion and science require a belief. For believers in God, God is the beginning. For scientists, God is at the end of all consideration. I had asked one of the important scientists, that when you put a Sputnik or anything in the sky, what happens? He says, whole day we are attached to the religion. Before we do 1, 2, 3, 0, and till that time, it is the religion, not the science with us. Lot has been said about the Jainism, but I would just like to say that it is the renunciation of worldly desires and self-conquest, that is aparigraha, leads to perfect source of wisdom. Dr. Harshvardhanji is a doctor, but the eminent Greek physician, who is still considered as the father of modern science, Hippocrates. In fact, Hippocratic oath, which all graduating doctors still take, has written in 4000 BC, life is short and decisions difficult. These require spiritual energy, otherwise there is the crisis of fleeting, experience perilous, and decision difficult. Medical science, through extensive research, has established anger leads to high blood pressure. Am I correct? Tendency to protest irritates the bowels. Insult and humiliation leads to disorders. Intense lust leads to chest pains. Mental suffocation leads to headache. Jealousy is linked to ulcer, and too much ambition, which is there in India, causes diabetes. After empirical studies and research at ground level, under the guidance of Gurudev Tulsi, it was established that for all these disorders which I have just pronounced, Jain philosophy, enshrined in Agams, prescribes spiritual therapy for purity of emotions to revolutionize human attitudes and behavior. With each emotion, certain subatomic materials clusters are formed. The doctrine of karma is the doctrine, direct outcome of the old saying, as you sow, so shall you reap. Preksha meditation and yoga exercises help in liberation from the bondage of negative thoughts and artificiality and enable the mind to get focused in areas which require dedicated attention and action. This in turn leads to a series of action germinating through love, peace, and truth, the ultimate goal of mankind. Sir, the conference will surely mine the minds, clear the mysticism, arrogate and energize indomitable human spirit for establishing a strong and happy family which can lead to creation of noble nation as conceived and crystallized by late Jain Acharya Mahapragya Ji and late scientist President APJ Abdul Kalam. Om Aram.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very pleasant formality of the conference. That's release of the conference souvenir and abstracts, as well as a newsletter. May I request Dr. Harshvardhan to do the honors by releasing the conference souvenir and the abstracts of the paper. All the distinguished persons on the dais will be presented with a memento as a token of our affection and gratitude. The Chancellor would do the honors. To Honorable Justice Bhandari. Memento to Shri Rajiv Mehrotra. With all affection and gratitude to Dr. D. Parthasarathy. To the Chairman and Director of this conference, Dr. K.P. Mishra. To Professor Akasaka. To Dr. Jeffrey Long. To Samani Charitra Pragya, the Vice Chancellor of the University. And also to Samani Chaitanya Pragya, they say that they are part of the hosts. And we cannot forget the Chancellor, and therefore may I request Dr. Beena Punjabi to do the honors by presenting the memento to our Chancellor.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have the great honor to thank you all for your patience and keenly listening to all the speeches given by the distinguished speakers. I also want to thank IIT for extending us all the facilities which made it possible for us to have this conference. To all of you who have kindly joined us this morning for the conference, especially media, which has done a most favor to us by circulating not only in Bombay, not only in the English papers, but other languages, the message of this conference. Thank you very much. The sessions will continue.
We have Mr. Vallabh Bansali, Chairman of Inam Group, who is a well-known member of the Jain community with us. May I request him to please come forward and accept our felicitation.
I am no dignitary, a mere seeker and a beneficiary of the great wisdom of this country. But at the same time, as an ordinary citizen, very concerned about the pain, the misery, and the challenges around us. And therefore, my thoughts today are more technical, more practical than philosophical. I'm trying to see where the divergence between spirituality or the path of Lord Mahavir and the path of modern science begins. And that would also be the point of convergence. Indeed, Munishri, the Institute, and all of us, or rather many of us who are Jains here, feel very strongly that we know as much about spirituality as about the physical world. Lord Mahavir spoke with as much perspicacity, as much perfection about the world within as about the world without. The question arises, what enabled him to do that? I think the objectives of men of pursuit of science, men in pursuit of science, and those in robes is the same. They are trying to understand world in totality. And I think the clue lies in what Lord Mahavir prescribed, that those who want to pursue perfect happiness, which is the same as perfect knowledge, must follow a path of correct perspective, of correct knowledge, and correct conduct. I think the emphasis on correct conduct is the most interesting aspect. And he says, where does the journey begin? For understanding the world within and the world without, where does the journey begin? Whereas a man who takes to robes is more concerned with the misery within, maybe the man who works in the laboratory typically is intrigued by what is the gap in knowledge and understanding what is without. And is it that if that scientist also began with understanding oneself, would the results be different? Is my proposition. That when a seeker along the path of Lord Mahavir begins to see herself as a mere bundle of biases, as a result of which she takes birth again and again, she wants to get rid of all the biases and suffering therefrom. Far less want to project a view that is not based on the absolute and the holistic truth experienced deep within herself. If a seeker in the name of Jainism is not doing so, must be humble enough to correct herself. As against this, when the focus is on the outside, the standards can be lax and motives can be corrupted and declaration of the ultimate truth be premature. Now, when I say this, am I nitpicking? No. It is amazing that the abiding principle of Lord Mahavir's path is correctness or samyak. And the touchstone that science uses all the time is objectivity, the same as samyak, because the most approximate translation of the word samyak would be objectivity, and the science lives by that. And no wonder that while we may see that scientists often change their findings, and we may see, oh, their knowledge is imperfect, but I see in that their humility and their openness to adopt a higher standard of objectivity. I think the only question arises, where do we begin with this objectivity? And I'll give you an example from one of the recent journals, one of the most respected journal in the scientific world. It is